everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Lenny. If you saw my previous video on automating a lo-fi music channel using AI agents in n8n, then you're in for a little treat today because this is the upgraded version. In this tutorial, I'll show you how to fully automate your lo-fi YouTube channel using smarter AI agents, AI-generated images and video animation that make your content more visually engaging and more likely to go viral. I'm also going to be using a lot of open source free tools, so you don't have to worry about spending a lot of money on credits and all that. So whether you're building a faceless channel, a chill beats brand, or you just want to level up your automation game, then this setup would save you time and help your channel stand out. I'm also going to leave the link to download this templates for free in the comment section below as well, like I always do. So first things first, I'm using a schedule trigger to kick off this workflow, and really you can decide what sort of trigger you want it to be. I decided to use a schedule trigger, so if you want to be posting, let's say, the same time every day, then you can set those credentials in here. I also do have this AI agent in here that sort of generates visuals of the music. Yes, basically what I'm trying to generate in here is I'm generating the theme, I'm generating the title, the lyrics, the music, and all that in this bunch in here. And then I feed that into a field to manually mark those fields, and then I log them into Google Sheets because I want to be tracking how many videos or what videos are going in and coming out. It can really decide how you want to do your tracking as well. And this part of the workflow is where I generate the image. So I first generate the image using free APIs from Google, and then I sort of use those images to generate an animated video using Runway. So Runway is the only API I'm paying for. I'm just only paying for the Runway APIs. All other APIs I didn't have to pay a dime for. So yeah, so I'm using Runway to generate the animated video, and then I save the animated video to file. Over here is where I generate the music, and I'm using SedMind. I was able to get SedMind for free as well. The only caveat is you can only generate one music every 5 minutes. Okay, so that is the caveat to using SedMind. But yeah, it was free as well. And then I'm using a merge node in here to help me wait for each of these nodes to complete before proceeding to the next part of the process, which is really modifying the video and then getting it ready to be posted on YouTube. I'm using FFmpeg to do the video stitching of the video and the audio I get from the various branches in here, and then I eventually post the video, the final video, onto YouTube. So this is how the output eventually looks like. I'm gonna play the output for you. I know that this is quite short. I made it short for the purposes of this tutorial, but then if you wanted a longer video, you can always set the parameters and I'll show you how to do so. Okay, so now that I've showed you how this exact workflow works, I'm now going to show you how to build it step by step. And like I mentioned, I'm going to leave the link to where you could download the templates in the comment section below for free, and I'd like to see if you are able to build on top of this that you come up with. It would be great to see that as well. Okay, so let's get started. So when you come in to create a workflow, you just add a first step. In this case, I use a schedule trigger. You could use a manual trigger as well. And then you get the music details, you create the music details. So in this case, I'm going to be using an AI agent in here, and I'm just going to be using, in terms of the chat model, I'm going to be using Gemini. Yes, these days I'll be using Gemini a lot. And make sure you're on Gemini 2.5, Apple or Flash, or latest version really. So I'm just going to scroll down to 2.5 Pro or Flash Preview. So I'm just gonna go with, let's say, this one to 2.5 Flash Preview, and then I'm just gonna leave that. I'm not adding any options. In terms of memory, I'm gonna be using the simple memory here, and kindly I don't have a session key just yet, but I'm gonna have one soon. And then I'm gonna add an output parser. So in here I'm gonna say require specific output, and then I'm gonna come in here and then use a structured output parser, and then I'm gonna update this shortly. But let's come in here first and let's update this with exactly what we wanted to do. So this is what we want. You're gonna have a system message in here, and in terms of the user prompt, you're gonna change this and say define below. And the user prompt, we're just gonna put something as simple as respond to this prompt according to the instructions below. right? And I'm gonna put the instructions in here. I already have an instruction I created. Like I mentioned, I would leave all this in the comment section so that you can download it word for word. So this is the instructions in here, and basically just to give a summary of what this does is like, so you are a helpful AI assistant designed to generate creative assets for a LoFi animated music video using Runway, and I've given a breakdown of what the role includes. So the first part of the role is to generate a LoFi music theme. The second role is to write original LoFi style lyrics. The third one is to generate 200 character prompts, and we are keeping this to 200 just because there's a limitation on Segmind to just use less than 200 character prompt. So yeah, so we have three main instructions for this helpful AI assistant that's designed to generate creative assets for a LoFi animated music video. Now moving on. So once we have this done, I'm just gonna save this for now, and then I'm just gonna execute the workflow. Okay, so it's gonna fail, and that's fine. It's failing because in our memory load we have to have in here some key. Okay, so I'm gonna define below, and I'm just gonna use this ID here as the key, and we should be fine. So now if I should execute this workflow, we shouldn't have any errors for now. Okay, so we need to also connect our Gemini credentials, and in terms of the outputs parser, we want to make sure that we are formatting it the right way. So this is where we are going to put in here. I'm going to use this exact JSON. Again, don't worry, I'm going to leave all this in the description box so it's easier for you. So now we have our Google Gemini Chats model configured, we have our simple memory configured, and we have our output parser configured. I'm just going to click on execute and let's see what we get. Okay, so we have our output now. As you can see, we have our music C, which includes the title, the genre we want. We have the lyrics that has been generated for us. We have the animation prompt as well that has been generated for us. And that's really what we wanted as well. So that has been done. We have the description, so that is good. Okay, so moving on. Now that we have all of this generated for us, the next step for us is to drive them into the fields we want. So I'm going to add an edit field node in here, and then I'm going to create about 6 fields. This field would be about a music genre you want. So music genre, I'm gonna call this music genre, and I'm gonna drag the genre in here. And then the next field would be the lyrics for the music. So this is lyrics for music. Again, it's also like a string, so I'm gonna drag a lyrics for music in here. And then the next field, I'm going to create a dates field. So I want to keep track of when this was generated. So I'm going to create a date field, and I'm going to come in here, and then I'm going to select the date, which is now in here. And then the next field I want to create is an animation prompt field. Okay, so I'm going to click here and say animation prompt. And then I'm going to drag in here the animation prompt. And then finally, I'm going to create a field for the title. And then the title, for sure, we already have the title generated, which is Rainy Day Reflections. So this is in here for us. So this is good now. If I should execute step, you'd see that, yeah, all in here nicely for us. So this is great. Now that we have this field ready, the next step is we want to build a video ML image, right? So we want to start building that. And in order to do so, like I mentioned, I have like a Google sheet that I created to sort of track the music that is being generated as per the workflow I have in here. So I'm going to hook this Google Drive sheet in here. And what I'm going to do is I want to log the fields in there. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to click on append or a beta row in sheet, okay? Append or a beta row in sheet. So when I come in here, I'm just going to look for the LoFi music tracker. And then the sheet is sheet 1. For the column to match on, I'm just going to select, I want to match on the date because that'll be like a unique variable there. And in terms of the values to send, we are going to send the dates, which we have from our previous field, which is this one. We're also going to send the music title, which is this one. We're going to send the animation prompt, which is this one. We're going to send the lyrics to it, which is this one. And then we're not going to pass the status here. So the status is going to be empty from now. And then next is where we generate our image. So let's come on to generate our image. So in order to generate our image, like I mentioned, I'm going to be using like a Google Image Generator API. And specifically, I'm using the V1 beta version. And like I mentioned, since I'm going to give you like the templates and everything, I'm just going to skip through this quickly. So this is the HTTP node. I am updating in here. And I'm using the post in here. And in terms of the endpoint URL, I'll be using this exact endpoint URL in here. If you go into the Google API documentation, you go into this one, you'll be able to get all the information you need. And this is what we are using. And like I mentioned, I'm going to provide this to you as well, so you'll be able to access it. So in terms of authentication, we'll go for none. And in terms of send query parameters, we're going to be sending specific query parameters. And what we want to send is the key. So we need to first have like your API key created. You can do so by creating it in your Google Cloud Console. Make sure that your API key is not shown to anybody. I'm going to delete this API key right after this tutorial. If I should run this right now, you'd see that I'll get like a base 64 string. Okay, so as you can see, a base 64 encoded file has been created for us. And this is in base 64. Like we clearly cannot see what image this generated. So in order for us to like see the image that was generated, we first need to convert it to like a real file. So then a user converts file, and what we are looking to do is they're just trying to move a base 64 string into file. So all we need to do in terms of the input field is to do this, and then we ask who the file in like a binary file. We just call it beta, and let's say the file name, we'll just call the file name, let's say image. Okay, so let me execute the entire workflow so that you see that we have an image created for us. I'm going to save this and then execute. It's always good practice to like save your work, otherwise you're going to lose it, okay? So I'm saving this now, and let's see what we get. Okay, so this has been generated for us. If I click on view, this is what we got. Looks really good, super cute. So that's nice. So now that we have our image generated for us, the next step for us is we want to store this in Google Drive, okay? We eventually would have to pass this on to Runway, and Runway requires that you provide it with an HTTP URL. So we want to host this image somewhere. So this is where Google Drive comes in. So in Google Drive, I have also created a folder in Google Drive that I called LoFi Video Images, right? So I'm going to be using that folder in Google Drive. So if I come in here, I come to Google Drive, and all I have to do is I just want to upload the file, and I'm uploading the file. I'm going to give it a name. I'm going to name it according to the title of the song, okay? So I'm going to grab the file name here. That'll be the title of the song, and I want to put this in my LoFi Video Images folder, and yeah, we should be good. So once I have it uploaded in there, what I want to do is, usually, if you want like an API to be able to like reach the file, you want to make sure that you're updating the settings in such a way that anybody with a link can do, right? You have to expose it to the internet. So I'll show you how to do that. But in order to do that, I have to execute the entire workflow just to make sure that I would have the file available to me. I'm going to show you how you could base permissions from n8n itself. Okay, so we have the file ready for us. It's already been uploaded. So this is good. Now we have an ID here. So what we want to do is we want to give permissions to this file. So we're going to come back into Drive, and we're going to click on Google Drive, and what we're going to do is share file. Okay, so we're going to share file, and we're going to share by IB, and I'm going to guide this IB in here. And in terms of the permissions, I'm going to say viewer, let's say reader, okay, and then I'm just going to say anyone. So what that means is that anyone with a link can view, and I've updated the file permissions just like that. So that's good. If I should execute this workflow when I come into Google Drive, you realize that yes, the file has been generated and it has that permission. If I should go into Google Drive right now, for instance, and I modify by last modified, let's see if this workflow has completed. Okay, so this workflow has completed. So if I should come into Google Drive and I click on this, if I look at the permissions in here, you see that the permission should change. So it's public, and anyone on the internet can find and view this file. So that's good. That is working just like we wanted to. So now let's come back. So now that we have our permissions and everything updated, the next thing for us is to generate the video. And like I said, we are using Runway APIs to generate a video. So we are again using an HTTP request to do this. You need to have your own like API keys and stuff. You need to have your API keys and everything ready to use like the Runway ML APIs. And yeah, we'll be going for generate a video from an image, and we just want to copy this code in here, and then we are gonna like import it in here, okay? Instead of like having to type manually, we're going to import it in here. And what we're going to do is we're going to enter our API keys. You need to have your API keys set up and ready to go. So I'm going to enter my API keys here. I'm going to also delete this API key right after this tutorial. And then, yeah, we have the version we want in here. In our prompt image, we just use this one, our animation prompt in here. And then for our prompt image, we want to give the link to where our image lives, right? Which is in Google Drive. And we are going to be using the web content link because that's the one that has the download, right? So I'm going to grab that in here because that's the one that can be downloaded via this application. And in terms of see everywhere, all these things are default. I'm just going to keep them. For the prompt text, we're going to be using animation prompting here. So I'm going to scroll down to our animation prompts that we generated from the earlier portion, which is this one. And then we are going to keep the duration to 5. You can make it longer if you want. They're keeping the ratio to this, which is for YouTube. If you are posting somewhere else, like say you're posting a reel or something else like that, then you could decide on what the aspect ratio should be. Yeah, so that's all we need for this ACKP request. And then usually when this happens, it takes about, let's say, a minute or 2. So I'm going to add in a wait node in here. So I'm going to use a wait node in here. And I'm just going to wait for about 2 minutes, just so we don't burn credits, okay? I'll wait for 2 minutes. And then after 2 minutes, I'm going to get details of the music generated after 2 minutes, okay? In order to get the details, we're going to come back into Runway and the API documentation in here, which is the API reference. And I'm going to say get task details. And in order to get a task details, you need the ID from the previous step, which we would have once we execute it. So I'm going to come in here and then I'm going to import curl, put this in here and then import. Again, you need to put in your API key, which like I mentioned, I'm going to be deleting once after this, once this tutorial is done so that you don't have access to my API key and run them for free. Yeah, so that's all we needed. We need to add the ID. We'll give it ID once everything have been generated. So once we are done with the step, we would have the ID and everything in here for us. So this is the ID. We have everything. So yeah, I'm just gonna save this for now and then I'm gonna take on as a cheat. Okay, so this workflow is complete now, and we have the output of the video in here created for us. So now that we have the details of the video, and we can see the status says completed in here. So once we have the status marked as completed, we can just have like an if-else statement, just so we could proceed with like downloading the video and stuff like that. Notice that the output also gives us the location of where the video is. So if I should copy this and I put this in my browser right now, you'll be able to see the output of the video. If I play it, you can see that this is animated video and the 5 seconds log. So that's looking good for us. So now that we have this ready, the next step is to add the if-else statement and also download the video. So I'm just gonna add a quick if-else statement in here, and I'm just gonna say if the status is succeeded, then proceed with the next step. If it's not, then let's wait longer, because if it's not complete, all you can do is just work on that as long as you have the right API keys and everything set up. So if it's not ready, we just give it another 2 minutes and then it would be ready for us. So that's what we'll be using as our if-else statement. And then yeah, if it's ready, we just want to go ahead and download the video. And what we'll do is we're just gonna be using like a GET request, and in the URL in here, we're just gonna be using the output from the previous node in here, which is essentially the URL we got from this one here. We call the output 0. So that's exactly what we are putting in our download node. And then once we have this downloaded, we could eventually save this to file. So we'll have like a write to disk node in here, and we're gonna write file to disk, and we want to give it like a specific name. So we want to call it just video, and then we're gonna store it in like this temp folder, and then we are gonna call it let's say video file. So we're gonna put in here the input binary beta as video file. Know that once you download it, it's gonna come in here as a video file. So that's looking good right now. So we have to also set up the stream for the music generation bit. So in order to generate our music, like I mentioned earlier on, we using streamline to generate our music, which is essentially, this is the pitch for it, and I'm gonna drop a link to the API documentation and everything in the comment section so that you can easily navigate to it. But in streamline, what we really need is we need a prompt, we need a duration, and we need a seed. Okay, so it defaults to 10, but you could make it like longer. So it says the maximum it will give you is like 30. So and like I mentioned, this is free. We have this ready. We already have this. So we just have to like set it up. So like I mentioned earlier on, it requires us to provide it prompts and also music duration as well as the seed. So this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna come in here and add an edit field, our node, and we want to manually set because we know that our music prompt would come from the previous node. So we set that field, which is the music prompt field, and it has a specific input character looking for. It's looking for like a string. So our music prompt is really the description in here, and then we want to also manually set the music duration. Okay, we want to manually set the music duration. So I'm just gonna write music duration here as a field, because I mean, if you want your music duration to be like 30 seconds, you can set it as 30 seconds, but it requires it to be a member. So I'm just gonna keep it to 15 just for the because of this tutorial. And again, for the seed needs to be string, so I'm gonna set that as 42. So that is looking good right now. So let's move on to the next step. So once we have all these things set up in the edit field node, we want to do an HTTP request to the Segment API. And if I come in here, I'll select the HTTP request, and I'm going to be using the post. And I've already showed you where you could essentially get the information. So if I come back into like Segment in here, for instance, all I'll do is I'll just copy the call code. And let's go back into n8n. This is a post, and then the URL, the mcoin URL is this one. It's basically leveraging Meta's music gem. And then in terms of authentication, we would rather be sending headers. So let's send headers, and we need that API key. So copy this API key in here. Yeah, you put in your API key. Like I mentioned, just make sure you don't show your API keys at anybody, because that's how people can actually run your credits or like get access to your bank details and stuff like that. So you need to really guard the API keys. I'm gonna delete these keys after this tutorial. And for the prompts, I'm gonna be using the music gen field from the previous section. If I should run the entire node, you'd see that I'll be able to just drag it from previous section. For our duration, and also we already set the duration in the previous node, so I'm just gonna drag that node in here as well. And remember, we set the duration to be 15, right? So that's what we are guarding in here. I mean, you could manually also put it in here too, but I like to keep things a bit dynamic. That's why I put it in fields first. And then the last parameter we need based on the documentation is the seed. They're gonna add a seed, and again, you're gonna get a seed from the previous field that was mentioned. Okay, so this is good. So we'll be getting at the details of the music, and then once we get the details of the music, all we wanna do is write it to file. Once we get details of the music, we're gonna write it to file. So let me write this to file. The reason why I don't wanna execute it as at this point is just because I want to write this to file as well. So let's say we're gonna call this the music file. Bring the merge node in here, and we're expecting to input in here. Yeah, I'm just gonna select a pen. Like, we're not gonna be using the data from this anyway, so we can really select anything at this point. And then I'm gonna drag this into here as input 2. Okay, so this is good. So I'm gonna execute this entire workflow, and then I'll show you our output music as well as our output video. Okay, so our video is ready. As you can see, it's completed in here. Our video is completed right now. So I'm just gonna play GC. Our video is ready. Oh, this is super good. So this is ready. We just wanna wait for our music to complete as well, and then we can proceed. Okay, so our music is also complete. Okay, so this is the output of our music. So that's great. That's really good. All right, so we have both of these streams ready. And so that's like the most important part, to get your video and get your audio ready. And then the next step is where we sort of combine our music and video into one clip. We're going to use that as a cute node, and in here we're going to enter this exact command. Like I mentioned earlier on, don't worry, I'm going to be providing the templates in my description box so that you can go try it out yourself and let me know how well it goes for you. So this is good. And so once we put in this command, what this command does is it says that if there's an existing video called final LoFi video, then overwrite it, and we want you to like look through the video and the music and then combine them together. And then the next step is, once we have this, we want to read the file. So we're going to read the file from disk, and they're going to read the exact file. So the exact file we are expecting to create is called the final LoFi video. So that's the exact file we're going to be reading, and we're going to read it from file. I'm going to put it in here like this. So once we read it from file, we can go ahead and post it on YouTube. So this is YouTube. In YouTube, we are going to select the upload video, command. So you're using a YouTube node and then would get a title from like the previous node. But I'm just gonna, because I have that here, I'm just gonna like put in the title so that we can run it one more time and we don't have to come in here. And then the region, I'm gonna select Canada because that's where I'm at. And then this is not pulling out because we need to sort of like input binary field. And then in terms of the description, you're gonna add the description from the previous notes, which is essentially we created a field in the beginning, a recorded description. So we pasted a field in here. And recording is a description, so that's exactly what we're using. And then and then we will set the privacy to unlisted. Okay, so let's come in here and then we'll set it to unlisted. I mean, you can even add like a human in the loop node here, or you could just get it to notify you via email that the video is ready. Right, so you could add like a Gmail node in here so that it's telling you like a notification that video is ready. So I can do that. I'm going to add a video here to my email address here. So let's say partnerships@gmail.com, and then the subject to be the music video. So let's come back in here into the fields where we created the fields, and then we're going to put in the subject, which is the title of the music, and then the message would be that this one, or say this has been uploaded to. Okay, so we have it here. It's gonna post to YouTube and then we are gonna unlist it. So I'm gonna run this as a cute node here and let's see if it's gonna work. Maybe it's gonna ask us to run the entire workflow. We'll see. So when I run the entire workflow, now that we have our video stream and our music stream set up, I'm gonna run the entire workflow and we'll see what the output looks like. But that is it for today's tutorial. If you enjoyed this tutorial, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Leave your comments in the comment section below. Share and subscribe. I also do have like other AI agent tutorials. I'm gonna leave them on the screen. So if this is something you're interested in, then don't forget to like subscribe to my channel for more. Visit my Ko-Fi page because I had a lot of like templates in there that I give for free. And then you can follow me on there as well so you get notified anytime I post new templates on there. But yeah, thank you for watching until the end of this tutorial, and I wish you all the best in your AI automation journey, in your YouTube journey, and let's go together. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, don't forget to subscribe, share, comment, all of this stuff. See you in the next one.